Good evening, students. So good evening all of you. So welcome to Unacademy EAMCET YouTube channel, students. So myself Dr.Rajendra Prasad, biology educator on Unacademy platform, students, and I have been teaching biology to NEET and EAMCET medical aspirants from last 13 years, students. So today's class we will be discussing about a topic that is related to the lesson that is called the respiration. In that we will be discussing the topic that is respiratory quotient for 30 minutes. So before starting the class, as usual, I would like to introduce about our Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So Unacademy is providing free live classes daily on its YouTube channel, at the same time on its Unacademy app, students. So apart from that, a well-designed course. So a well-designed course is also going on. So on Unacademy Plus platform. So apart from that, there is a well-designed course is also going on the Unacademy Plus platform, students. So that is called Unacademy Plus, and this Unacademy Plus is for students who subscribe to our courses, students. So let us see what is benefits of this Unacademy Plus subscription if you purchase this Unacademy Plus subscription. So let us see what is the benefits of this Unacademy Plus subscription, students. So if you see the Unacademy, what is the benefits of Unacademy Plus subscription is, so premium content. So premium content will be available at affordable price, students. Then structured live courses. There are structured live courses are present. So dedicated live doubt clearing sessions also will be available, students. For after every 3 theory classes, the 4th class will be a doubt clearing session, students. Certainly it will benefit for you. And quizzes. So quizzes are also conducted regular intervals. So batches, the lecturers will be in batches. You can join the batch of your interest, and test series. So daily practice papers also will be made available by the educators in the respective class. They will discuss these questions of daily practice papers. So full length mock test, the full length mock test also being conducted, students. So these all you can go for a 1 month trial plan of 2,250 rupees, students. So if you are interested, you can use my code Rajendra Live. So you can use my code Rajendra Live to purchase this 1 month trial plan of 2,250 rupees, students. So recently, means in the month of October, there was a newly batch started that is called as a Telugu batch. And what is the main purpose of this Telugu batch is to make the students prepare for coming medical entrance examination 2021. So what is the importance of this particular Telugu batch is, so the detailed explanation will be given in Telugu language. So మన నేటివ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ తెలుగులో మనకి ఏంటంటే మనకున్న ఎడ్యుకేటర్స్ అందరూ ఎడ్యుకేటర్స్ కూడా మనకి తెలుగులో క్లాసెస్ చెప్తారు కాబట్టి ఖచ్చితంగా అది మనకి కొద్దిగా కంఫర్టబుల్గా ఉంటుంది, ఎందుకంటే మన రీజనల్ లాంగ్వేజ్ కాబట్టి. సో వాట్ ఈస్ ద మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఆఫ్ అనదర్ మెయిన్ పర్పస్ ఈస్ కంప్లీట్ దిస్ సిలబస్. సో సిలబస్ అనేది ఖచ్చితంగా మనకి ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ ఇంటర్మీడియట్, సెకండ్ ఇయర్ ఇంటర్మీడియట్ సిలబస్ మొత్తం కవర్ చేసే విధంగా వాళ్ళు డిజైన్ చేసుకునే కోర్స్ ఉంటుంది. సో ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ ఇంట్రెస్టెడ్ యూ క్యాన్ పర్చేస్ దిస్ ప్లాన్ బై యూజింగ్ ది కోడ్. సో రాజేంద్ర లైవ్ అన్న కోడ్ యూజ్ చేసి మీరు ఖచ్చితంగా మీరు ఈ ప్లాన్ అనేది తీసుకోవచ్చు. 1 month ట్రయల్ ప్లాన్ తీసుకుంటే 2,250 రూపీస్కి మీకు అవైలబిలిటీ ఉంటుంది. నా కోడ్ యూజ్ చేసి రాజేంద్ర లైవ్. సో అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దట్ అనదర్ కోర్స్ means another batch course already started previously, that is called comprehensive batch. In that I am taking biology classes, Sir is taking physics, and Sir is taking chemistry classes. So this batch purpose is also main purpose is to complete the syllabus, and tips and tricks will be given by the respective educators, topic wise practice papers and full length mock test. This all will be available, students, and this all you can get for 1 month trial plan of 2,250 rupees. Okay, so you can use my code Rajendra Live to purchase this respective plan. Then apart from this short 1 month plan, so there is a long term plans are available, students. These are the best and cheapest plans which are available on our Unacademy EAMCET platform. So if you see the 6 months plan costing around 10,125 rupees, and 12 months plan costing around 12,375 rupees, students. These are the best plans. I suggest you to purchase these plans, so it will benefit for you. If you are interested, you can use my code Rajendra Live and purchase this particular 6 months plan for 10,125 rupees and 12 months plan for 12,375 rupees. So this is about our Unacademy Plus subscription. So let us start today's topic, that is respiratory quotient, which is a part of the lesson, that is the respiration lesson. So let us see what is this respiratory quotient. So let us see this respiratory quotient, students. So what is this respiratory quotient means? If you see the respiratory quotient is that it is a ratio. So it is a ratio. So respiratory quotient is a ratio. It is a ratio of volume of CO2. So ratio of volume of CO2 evolved. So ratio of volume of CO2 evolved to the volume of oxygen consumed. So when a substrate, so when this respiratory coefficient is measured means when the substrate can be a carbohydrate, a substrate can be a fat, or it can be a lipid. So when substrate is oxidized, we know that when substrate, okay. So when substrate is oxidized, certainly what happens is, so when substrate gets oxidized, the oxygen is consumed. At the same time, what happens is the carbon dioxide is evolved. So carbon dioxide is evolved and oxygen is consumed. So we will be measuring the volumes of carbon dioxide evolved and volume of oxygen consumed, and that is called as the respiratory coefficient. So let us see what happens here. You can see these are the substrates. So different substrates which are generally oxidized. So we have seen previously in the last few sessions we were discussing how the respiration is taking place. The respiration plants, like it was aerobic respiration, was 3 major steps. We have discussed about the glycolysis, we have discussed about Krebs cycle, we have seen about electron transport chain. At the last, we have seen there is a formation of ADP took place. So like that, what happens is that whole process involves oxidation. There we have seen about oxidation of carbohydrates. So like the different substrates, you can see here, this is the substrate can be a fats, the substrate can be a carbohydrate, the substrate can be a protein. So when these substrates get oxidized, when this carbohydrate get oxidized, some amount of carbon dioxide is evolved and some amount of oxygen is consumed. So based upon the ratios, we will get the coefficient, we will get some value that is called as the respiratory coefficient. So that respiratory coefficient values varies. It certainly varies from one substrate to the another substrate. So the respiratory quotient value is different for fat and it is something different for carbohydrates and proteins. We will see what are the different values of respiratory quotient for carbohydrates, for fats and proteins. So before that, so during the process of respiration, you see during the process of respiration of fats, means when fats are getting oxidized, how we are getting energy. If you see here, so this is the fats. So fat is, we already know that fats or lipids, they are composed of glycerol plus fatty acids. And this glycerol, so how this glycerol is oxidized, it is involving several steps. So glycerol is converted to dihydroxyacetone phosphate, you can see here, DHAP, dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and that is further converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and it enters into the glycolysis cycle. So pyruvic acid is produced, further acetyl CoA, and it enters into Krebs cycle, later electron transport chain, and we will be getting the energy in the form of ATP. So during this process, an amount of carbon dioxide is also liberated, you can see here. So like this, what happens is when fats are oxidized, so in very first step, fats are broken down into glycerol plus fatty acid. So glycerol is metabolized in this way. Well, similarly fatty acids, so fatty acids are directly converted into acetyl CoA. Fatty acids are oxidized to acetyl CoA, and further acetyl CoA, from an acetyl CoA it enters into the Krebs cycle and undergo it completes its respiration to liberate some amount of energy. So like that, what happens is, so these particular substrates gets oxidized. Similarly, you see here proteins. So proteins are first broken down to amino acids. So there some enzymes will be there like peptidases. So they break down into the amino acids. Similarly, here the fats are broken down by lipase. So lipase enzyme breaks the fats into fatty acid plus glycerol. So proteins are broken down into amino acids by enzyme peptidases, and amino acids are further converted directly into amino acids converted into pyruvate, and pyruvate enters into Krebs cycle and continue its cycle and undergo respiration and completes its respiration, liberates some amount of energy. So during this process of respiration steps, what happens, some amount of carbon dioxide is released, at the same time some amount of oxygen is also consumed. So that amount of carbon dioxide evolved and amount of oxygen consumed, so that gives the respiratory quotient of the particular substrate. Okay, so like that, so respiratory quotient, if you see the respiratory quotient, it is a ratio of volume of CO2 evolved to the O2 consumed when substrate is oxidized. And those substrates, so again the same thing, the substrate can be of different compounds. The substrate can be a carbohydrate, as just now we have seen. The substrate can be a protein and substrate can be a lipid or any other. So like that, so let us see about the respiratory quotients of different substrates. Now let us see the very first one. This is about the carbohydrate. So this is the respiratory quotient of carbohydrate we are calculating here. If you see here, now this is a glucose. So this one is glucose. The substrate here it is glucose. So we already know that glucose has a formula, that is C6H12O6. So this glucose is getting oxidized. So you can see it is in the presence of oxygen. When it is oxidized, so certainly what happens? Some amount of carbon dioxide is liberated, and finally we got some energy. So in this equation we have to find out the respiratory quotient. So how we are calculating? So we are taking these two components in this particular equation when glucose is getting oxidized. So according to our formula, respiratory quotient is equal to, so volume of oxygen, so volume of CO2 evolved by volume of O2 consumed. So based on that, you can see here already given here. So how many molecules of CO2 are evolved? 6 molecules of CO2 by volume of O2 consumed, also 6. So 6 by 6, so that is equal to 1. So finally the glucose or carbohydrates, the respiratory quotient. So respiratory quotient of carbohydrates is always 1. So respiratory quotient of carbohydrates is always 1. So that is what we have to solve in this way. We have to calculate the respiratory quotient in this manner actually. Okay. So respiratory quotient of carbohydrates is always 1. So based upon the given equation, so simply we can directly any carbohydrate molecules, any carbohydrates, they have the respiratory quotient of 1 only. Okay. Let us see the other one more, the next one. So this is about the fatty acid. Now this equation which I am showing here is a fatty acid oxidation. So this is a fatty acid oxidation. So in this we are taking stearic acid. So stearic acid is a fatty acid. So this stearic acid is having it is a 18 carbon. It is a 18 carbon fatty acid. So that is the name of the acid is called as stearic acid. It is clearly given there. So you can see when this stearic acid is getting oxidized, you can see, and it is when it is getting oxidized, it has released some molecules of carbon dioxide. Now based on that again, based upon our formula, so CO2, the amount of CO2 evolved. So we already have seen here 18 by amount of oxygen, so 26. So it is less than 1. So what we have to remember here is in this case is in fatty acids, when fatty acids are getting oxidized, the number of oxygen molecules utilized means consumed will be more than the number of the carbon dioxides evolved. So that is another important character feature of the oxidation of fatty acids. So this is here the substrate is fatty acid, the substrate is fatty acid, the name of the fatty acid is stearic acid. And stearic acid substrate, stearic acid is acting as substrate. When it get oxidized, what happens is it is releasing the amount of carbon dioxide and it is consuming some number of oxygen. But the amount of carbon dioxide consumed is the number of carbon dioxide molecules that is consumed is lower than compared to the amount of oxygen molecule, means amount of carbon dioxide evolved is lower than compared to the oxygen consumed. So based on that, so we got the answer is the respiratory quotient. So respiratory quotient of fatty acids is always, it is less than 1. It is less than 1. So in this case, in case of stearic acid, it is 0.7. So stearic acid is 0.7. So like that, we have to remember that in case of fatty acids. So in case of fatty acids, certainly the respiratory quotient. So respiratory quotient will be certainly less than 1. It will be less than 1. So best example which we have seen here is about stearic acid, which is a 18 carbon saturated fatty acid. Actually, this is 18 carbon saturated fatty acid. Okay. So that is about the fatty acid, that is stearic acid. Let us move to another fatty acid. Now we can see here there is another fatty acid. So this question has came in the previous year NEET exam. This the same question came actually. So tripalmitin. So this is another fatty acid. You can see the tripalmitin formula is C51 So in 2019 NEET question paper, this question came. So in that question, they were asking about what is the RQ value. So what is the respiratory coefficient value of tripalmitin? That was the question actually. So you can see here. So C51H98O6. That is the actually the molecular formula of this particular tripalmitin. So no need to by heart this type of molecular formulas. So they will give molecular formula. We have to balance it actually. So sometimes what they do is they give the question like this is the molecular formula tripalmitin. So you find out the RQ value. Then we have to prepare our equation. So for example, we have given the question like, so find out the RQ value of tripalmitin. Directly if they are given without equation, then what we have to do is, so in bracket they will give the molecular formula of tripalmitin. Then we have to write like this, and then we have to take this manner. And what we have to do is we have to balance it. We have to balance by ourselves, and then we have to give the RQ value. Okay. Sometimes they will only balance and give the equation. Then it is very easy to answer. But sometimes if they don't give the balanced equation, then you have to balance it. So sometimes such type of questions may come sometimes. Okay. So in this case, you see tripalmitin. In tripalmitin, how much amount of carbon dioxides are evolved? You can see the number of carbon dioxide evolved. So how many carbon dioxide evolved? 1 or 2. And how many of oxygens are consumed? So 145. So 1 or 2. So 1 or 2 by 145. So something less than 1. So again, so fatty acids. So just now we are discussing the same thing. In case of fatty acids, the respiratory coefficient is always less than 1. It is always less than 1. So that is the important point we have to remember. So it's always less than 1. It's always less than 1 in case of the fatty acids respiratory quotient. So let us see about the organic acids. So organic acids. So if you remember last class we were discussing about citric acid cycle. In the citric acid cycle we have seen different types of organic acids. We have seen the different types of organic acids. So we have seen organic acid. So citric acid is also one type of organic acid. Citric acid we have seen. So we have seen succinic acid. So malic acid, fumaric acid or fumarate, alpha ketoglutarate acid. So all these, so alpha ketoglutarate acid. So these all are the best examples of organic acids. So these organic acids are present in abundant amount in the plant as well as in human body. So they are present in abundant amount. They are never deficient because they are the intermediate compounds in this particular respiratory process. So they are present in abundant amount. Let us see the respiratory quotient of organic acids. So for that there is one example was taken, malic acid here. So in this malic acid is acting as substrate. Okay, it is the substrate malic acid. When this malic acid is oxidized, once again the same thing, when this malic acid is oxidized, so then we are getting carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, then based on that again, if you see the respiratory quotient value, so you will get 4 by 3, then you will get so 1.33. So what we have to remember is the respiratory quotient. So respiratory quotients of organic acids. So respiratory quotients of organic acids are always, okay, respiratory quotients of organic acids are always more than 1. So they are always more than 1. So you have to remember this in multiple choice question they'll ask you. So if they ask so these are the different organic acids. What are the organic acids? Citric acid, succinic acid, malic acid, fumaric acid, alpha ketoglutarate acid, then you can pyruvic acid also. So these all are the best examples of the organic acids. So if in multiple choice questions, if they ask like what is the respiratory quotient of this particular organic acid, like citric acid, succinic acid, or malic acid, or fumaric acid, or whether it is pyruvic acid, then you have to immediately answer that it is something more than 1. So always the respiratory quotient of the organic acids like citric acid, malic acid, fumaric acid, or alpha ketoglutarate acid is always more than 1. It is never less than 1. So that is important point we have to remember here in this case. Okay, so respiratory quotient is always more than 1. It is here 1.33 in this particular case, in case of the malic acid. So organic acids are having the respiratory quotient, it is always more than 1. Yes, let's move to the next one. So oxalic acid. So there is another organic acid, you see, oxalic acid. So in this oxalic acid, this is another organic acid. You can see here again the value is more than 1. It is almost 4. So it is 4 actually, oxalic acid. So another organic acid, oxalic acid. So when this is oxidized, when oxalic acid is oxidized, you are getting value more than 1. So clearly we have to remember that. Then let us see the next one. So respiration in the absence. So respiration in the absence of oxygen. So till now what we have seen about aerobic respiration. So what about the respiratory quotient in case of anaerobic respiration? So very important thing we have to remember. So under anaerobic condition. So when this anaerobic condition takes place during the fermentation process. So during the process of fermentation, anaerobic respiration takes place. So at the time what happens is we get ethyl alcohol as one of the product. And so here you see, so in anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not consumed. Oxygen is not consumed or utilized. So not consumed or utilized. So anaerobic respiration itself is clearly telling that it is a respiration that is taking place in the absence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration is a process in which it is taking place in the absence of oxygen. Such type of respiration is called as anaerobic respiration. So this RQ value, now you can see here RQ, there is no oxygen at all. So it is not undergoing any oxidation because oxygen is not at all involved in this process of respiration. So certainly you can see, so there is no role of any oxygen in anaerobic respiration. So the answer is infinity. So infinity is the answer. So the respiratory quotient of the respiratory quotient during anaerobic respiration is infinity because oxygen is not part of anaerobic respiration and oxygen is not utilized nor consumed. So certainly it is infinity. So like that you have to remember in this case. Next, so let us see another numbers like when there is incomplete. So when there is incomplete oxidation. So when there is incomplete oxidation of carbohydrates. When there is incomplete oxidation of carbohydrates. When there is incomplete oxidation of carbohydrates. So where incomplete oxidation of carbohydrates generally takes place in members of the desert plants like Bryophyllum and Opuntia. So you can hear there is incomplete oxidation is taking place in desert plants or CAM plants. They are called as Crassy, Lucine acid metabolism plants. So in CAM plants what happens is incomplete oxidation takes place. You can see here glucose is oxidized. When we already know that when glucose is oxidized we get carbon dioxide plus water. But here you see, so there is another intermediate compound is produced here. So it should be a malic acid. So it is a partial oxidation. Partial oxidation is taking place. So certainly it is 0. So you have to remember that. So respiratory quotient in case of CAM plants. So respiratory quotient in case of CAM plants. Crassy Lucine acid metabolism plant. Okay. So Crassy Lucine acid metabolism plants. So Crassy Lucine acid metabolism desert plants. These are desert plants. Okay. So in these plants, in case of CAM plants, what happens is respiratory quotient is 0. So why it is 0? Because partial oxidation. So partial or incomplete oxidation. Incomplete oxidation is taking place with glucose. When glucose is oxidized, in case of aerobic respiration, we should get carbon dioxide and as well as water molecules. But in this case, what happens is we are not getting the carbon dioxide, but we are getting some other organic acid like malic acid as substrate. So certainly, so it is an incomplete oxidation. So certainly the answer will be 0. So respiratory quotient for desert plants is always 0. So that is the important thing you have to remember here. So So that is about the respiratory quotient. Let us see some multiple choice questions related to this lesson, respiratory quotient. Okay, students. So same thing. So respiratory quotient, how it is defined as? It is defined as the volume of carbon dioxide evolved to the volume of oxygen consumed. So this would be our answer. Okay. So let us see the next question. If respiratory quotient is less than 1, so if the respiratory quotient is less than 1, it would mean that. So we were discussing just in today's class carbohydrates. Carbohydrates has respiratory quotient of 1. So in carbohydrates we have respiratory quotient of 1. Organic acids have respiratory quotient more than 1. We have seen oxalic acid is having 4 also, it is having more than 1. Then so statement 1 and 2 cannot be our answer. Question is asking less than 1. So respiratory quotient is less than 1. In which case that was the question was asking. Okay. Then oxidation of respiratory substrate consumed more oxygen than the amount of carbon dioxide released. Yes, no, this would be the right statement. So more amount of carbon dioxide, more amount of the oxygen. So more amount of oxygen is consumed than more amount of the carbon dioxide released. So now this will be our right answer. So option 3 will be the right answer. Then only we get respiratory quotient less than 1. So generally takes place. So this is taking place in lipids. So in case of lipids, what happens is it is always less than 1. Okay, so less than 1. Respiratory quotient is less than 1. That is because of the more oxygen. So more amount of oxygen is consumed than amount of carbon dioxide is released. Next question. Then the RQ value. So respiratory quotient of early germinating seeds. So germinating seeds, what happens in seeds? We have starch. So this starch, when the seeds are germinating, starch gets broken down into maltose. So maltose with help of amylase enzyme. Okay, so amylase enzyme breaks the starch into maltose, and the maltose further break down into glucose. So certainly the glucose, we have seen about respiratory quotient of carbohydrates. So we have seen this today's class, respiratory quotient of the glucose or carbohydrates is always equal to 1. So that is equal to 1. So answer 1, option 1, that is option 1 will be the answer. Next question. So if respiratory quotient of is 0.6, that means it is less than 1. The same question we were discussing in today's class. So certainly what would be the answer? So carbohydrates is not, this option 1 cannot be answered. We know that, we have discussed this same type of question just now. So this is a word question which was arranged in Kerala set. So oxidation, respiratory substance consume more oxygen. So this was our right statement. We will discuss the same question in another slide also. Next, respiratory coefficient in anaerobic respiration. So just now we are discussing that in anaerobic respiration there is no oxygen. Oxygen is not consumed. So oxygen is not evolved, or oxygen is not consumed. As it is anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not part of the respiration. So answer will be infinity. So option 2 will be our answer. So RQ value in case of anaerobic respiration is infinity. Next one. So this one, so tripumping. So tripumping, here also you can see, so amount of, so you can just take this. So based upon our formula, CO2 by O2, we got, so 102 by 146. So if you cut it, certainly it is less than 1. So 0.7, so less than 1 we have seen in today's class only. So this 0.7, so 0.7 will be our answer in this case. Next question, so respiratory quotient of succulent xerophytes. So we were discussing, right? So in camp plants or in desert plants or in xerophytes, in camp plants or desert plants, okay, or in xerophytes. So partial oxidation is taking place. So partial oxidation is taking place. So partial oxidation or incomplete oxidation of substrate. So partial oxidation of substrate. So partial oxidation of substrate or incomplete oxidation of substrate is taking place. Because of that, what happens is it is always zero actually. So it should be actually zero. It is zero actually. It is zero because of the incomplete oxidation. So incomplete oxidation, option 2 will be our answer. So you can see here the incomplete oxidation, we were discussing the same thing. So glucose is incomplete oxidation to malic acid, so it is always zero. So this is the explanation for the previous question. So this is end of today's discussion on this particular topic, students. So before closing this session, once again I would like to introduce about Unacademy's long-term plan, students. So I suggest you to purchase these long-term plans. So I suggest you to purchase this long-term plan, students. So two best long-term plans are available. There is 6 months plan, which is costing around 10,125 rupees, and 12 months plan, which is costing around 12,375 rupees, students. So these are the two best plans available on our Unacademy platform. So I suggest you to purchase these plans. These are the cheapest ever plans I have seen in Unacademy platform. So if you are interested, you can use my code Rajendra Live and to buy the 6 months plan for 10,125 rupees, or if you are interested, you can go for 12 months plan, which is costing around 1,375 rupees. So this is about today's session on our respiratory coefficient, students. So let us see in the next class about the new topic on the respiration, that is anaerobic respiration. We will see next class. Thank you, students. Thank you all of you. I'll see you next class.